I know you are always a busy man, so I can't imagine that you're sitting waiting for things to happen. What are you actually doing during this time, both personally in terms of your own spiritual nourishment, but also in terms of the community, because you have to connect presumably to the Muslims of Cambridge and beyond in a way you haven't done before?
That is absolutely right. You know, one would assume, you will say like, okay, since your places of worship have been closed now because of this coronavirus, and your realization that we should do everything we could potentially, we will take every measure that we can to stop, you know, or at least to slow down the spread of this virus. So therefore we agreed to close our places of worship, and then the government recently issued the verdict that they did. So we have basically no choice but to close our places of worship. And you would say maybe ministers of religion don't do anything nowadays, but actually it is not for no reason that, you know, religious leaders have become key workers in these times. And indeed, in some ways, my activities have intensified, or the you know, the dynamics have changed in a way. But still, I'm very busy basically with my own congregation, but also reaching out with other communities as well, and our local community, like the neighborhood and other public institutions in the city. So, of course, we know from our scripture, and I believe the same is for other major religions, whenever we are afflicted in some way or another, we tend to prolong our worship, like our, you know, rituals, the prayers that we perform, the supplications that we make to God. We tend to do them really well when there are difficult times around us, like in times of crisis, or when a calamity befalls on us, or an affliction befalls on us. So in that sense, yes, on a personal level, I somewhat feel you know, reconnected with God on a stronger level, if I may say that. I'm maybe a little bit more careful with my prayers in terms of the longevity and my levels of concentration and so on and so forth. And I'm guessing all other conscious Muslims will probably have a similar feeling, or more or less the same.
Can I ask, some congregations are streaming services, but I understand in the Muslim community, it's not possible to have community prayers unless people are physically present. So what's happening on the worship level at the moment?
That's a very good question, I have to say. So basically, in Islam, we have prayers that could be categorized in two broad levels: congregational prayers, and then individual prayers, or prayers that we can say in our own private space and time. So the obligatory 5 daily prayers, all of them except the Friday prayer, they could actually be said always they could be said on an individual basis, wherever you happen to be. So from Islamic point of view, it's a little bit relaxing, I would say, taking, you know, the knowledge, or the fact that the whole of earth has been, you know, made like a place of worship in Islam. It's, you know, the whole of earth, except places that you basically are not fit to pray in, they are considered like a place of worship, like a mosque. So from that point of view, I guess many Muslims, you know, took it the right way, I would say, when we had to announce that we are closing our mosques. It was obviously strange for them, because I don't know anyone from our generation who remembers something like this. Yes, I happen to live in a war situation, but the mosques were not closed. In fact, they were really full of people praying, and I'm sure churches are full likewise, and synagogues and other places of worship, you know, Buddhist temples and so on, when there are, you know, genuine crises around you. So something like this, I don't know of, really. I've never heard or read in any chronicle of history that, you know, mosques were closed for Friday prayers or Eid prayers, I do know that there were occasions in the past, even in this century, when pilgrims were not allowed to go to Mecca to make the pilgrimage because of, for example, some pandemics or some other security issue or reasons. But we are, in a way, I would say, relaxed, because we know that our religion allows us to pray anywhere.
So,
Even the Friday prayer can be suspended.
thank you. Let me ask a different question, which is what you think the long-term impact will be. I mean, are there theological questions to ask about the fact that we're isolated, that we're connected virtually, but we're living at home? Are there questions to consider that will have long-term implications for our understanding, our self-understanding, and the spiritual life?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, especially if this current state carries on, if it takes months and months for us basically to go back to normal, I think the implications will be much more drastic and severe, I would say, like you said, on a mental level. And therefore, there are some, you could argue, theological implications to this, because people simply cannot understand why something like this would happen on this kind of scale. I mean, for Muslims, again, depends maybe on your level of spirituality and piety, but also very much with the level of your understanding of the divine. So if you understand God by all his qualities and attributes that Muslim theologians have taught us over the years, then I think you will accept natural catastrophes or calamities with a different approach. I'm not saying being relaxed. We are anxious, no doubt about that, but we know that these things do happen, and they are all part of God's major plan, or God's ways, or we call them sunanullah, ways of maintaining the world, running the world. And we somehow must understand that all of this fits quite well within his master plan.
Well, let me end this brief conversation. Viewers will see this lovely white flower that you're wearing, the Sarajevo flower. And I wonder whether you can just explain it briefly, but also I ask that because I wonder what connection there might be, what we might learn from your experience in Bosnia, not so much in terms of the war, because as you say, mosques were full, churches were full.
Yes.
But in terms of the challenge of something, when you're fighting something that you don't quite know what it is, what guidance would you give somebody, not just a Muslim, but somebody in this country who hasn't experienced what you've had to experience? How would you, what would you offer?
Well, thank you very much once again. I mean, yeah, I wear this flower to remember the people of Srebrenica, basically to remember any innocent victim of a horrible war conflict. I would really say it's like that. It's not just Srebrenica, it's not just the Holocaust, I would say. So, this kind of flower is supposed to spread the message of peace and reconciliation, basically. So I would say, yes, to be honest with you, war is a much tougher situation. Yes, we are afraid of this current virus, but this is not like a war state. You are not really afraid of bullets, hitting you, or shells dropping, at your front door and potentially harming you or any of your family members. So we are being careful not to catch this difficult disease, but at the same time, we know that people are not aiming at us. So my message really would be to everybody, whatever is your background, whatever religion you belong to, or of no religion, to be open-minded, to give a helping hand to stop being selfish, because these are the times when we saw people panicking and then showing their true self, like really just thinking of their own self. So these are the times when we have to, give a helping hand, show our solidarity, humanity, our benevolence and care towards and understanding towards other human beings.
Imam Saeed, thank you very much.